We're back.
Purchase your tracks today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope pod to step to. But we back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the relaunch, I guess you can call it, the season premiere, you can call it, the Jay and Will show. For those that don't know, my name is Gerard. I go by Jay, and the gentleman that is to my left is my brother, man. Introduce yourself to the good people.
It's your boy Will. You know what it
Yes,
is.
sir.
Talking about these football teams that's been kicking off and about to kick off here in about 2 hours, and we're about to make it do what it do, baby.
Man, glad to be back with you, bro. Let me also say before we get started, man, appreciate Rel for allowing us to be under the Glow Sun Production umbrella. Thank you, brother. We appreciate the opportunity, man, and we're excited to rock with you again. And before we jump into everything, I'll do the shameless plugs now. As part of Glow Sun umbrella, we got obviously Will and Rel, part of Cuz We Geeked. I'll give you a second to touch on what y'all do there, and then obviously we got the mothership with Rel and King on We Talk Mavs. Just for a second, just take some time, Will, and let everybody know that is not aware of what you guys do on Cuz We Geeked.
So, Cuz We Geek, it's all about that geek culture. So that's what we rode through, from comic books to the comic book movies, TV shows, video games as well. We get into all of it, get into the weeds of it all, being able to give you all information and our ideas, and also our expectations when it comes to essentially the MCU, the DCU, the now DCU, and then other areas in between. So that's what we have been getting into. Love it. Hit it up each week whenever we're healthy, I should say. But yeah. We're on it each week.
And that's the Cuz We Geek YouTube channel, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then obviously you guys already know We Talk Mavs. The official, I'm saying official, the official post game show of Dallas Mavericks basketball.
Absolutely.
A pod from the Mavs fan perspective. Shout out to King, shout out to Rel. What they've done to build that platform is going to be the reason why we have the opportunity to do what we do here. So it's going to always be love. And I know y'all do y'all shows late at night, but every now and then if y'all need to pop on. Whatever. Anyway, so what are we doing here? Why are we here? So for those that weren't part of the original iteration of Jay and Will, this is all football. We leaned towards Cowboys related content the last time we did this, and we'll still delve into it a little bit. I might take some time before this show is over to discuss my relationship with the Cowboys as it currently stands. But we felt like it would make more sense to make it a broader scope.
Yeah.
Just because if we just focus on the Cowboys, let's be honest, we'll be disappointed half the season. Yeah. So let's just keep it upbeat and talk about the NFL as a whole. Like I said, we'll still, we know our target, right? We Talk Mavs is Dallas Mavs podcast, so we're gonna kind of give some regional love to the local teams. Obviously, Rel lives in Dallas. I'm from Dallas originally, so that slant will still always be there. So we'll still touch on it, but we won't primarily focus the entire pod on them. We'll go through predictions. We may pick a couple of games of the week to delve into in more detail, in addition to the Cowboys games and Texas games. But we'll get into that. But the focus on this show today is to talk about the Thursday night football game that we saw the Friday night football game that we saw, and then we'll preview the games that are to come up this week in week 1, Sunday night games, and then Monday night as well. And then we will do some predictions in the show as well. We'll go over our predictions for each division's winner. We'll go over who we'll have as like our wild card. So we'll discuss who we have been in playoffs for AFC and NFC. We'll give our predictions on who we see being in each individual conference title game. And then we'll give our Super Bowl predictions as well. So we will start, with the Thursday night football game. So Thursday night, we saw the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs host the Baltimore Ravens, where they ended up ultimately beating the Ravens 27-20. Very interesting ending to the game. Great game throughout the whole thing. But I'll kick it to you, Will. Just give me your initial thoughts on the game and any takeaways that you had that you wanted to discuss, because it was bro.
It's another instant classic between KC and Baltimore. It was the rematch for the AFC Championship game, and both of it was a middle part of the game. I was kind of worried for Baltimore. I think it looked like they was about to let it slip away. As far as like about to get the break speed off of them, like 2 score plus. It's like I know y'all better than this, so y'all better bring it. Then right at the end, they got it closer. Lamar missed the one throw wide, and then I thought our dude got them toes, and I was hoping he would have like hit back foot first, and then rocked it forward. For the touch. But it was just gotta wear white shoes next time, like Mahomes told him afterwards. Gotta wear white shoes. But yeah, it was a great game. That's what you expect from 2 great teams. Especially it's early in the season, so they got a lot of things to clean up on both sides of the ball for both of them. Just to because you know how they do. They don't really play. The starters really don't play in the preseason, and then it's basically going from it's crazy because you go from jump playing great teams, so you got to bring it. And even though you try to bring it, it's still not mid-season form. So but either way, it was still a great game. He got to wear white shoes next time. That's how you start the season right there. It was fantastic. What you think?
Did you happen to see Lamar's interview afterwards? When they asked him about that last play before the toe touch one when he missed Zay.
What'd he say?
So he said he didn't even see Zay. He was trying to pass the ball to Bateman. So Bateman was running like a cross underneath where Zay was, and Bateman was kind of sandwiched between 2 defenders. Yeah. And so the reason why Lamar threw it the way he threw it was because he thought Bateman was going to continue to run, but Bateman kind of stopped where he was. He said he didn't see Zay until after he threw the ball. So he didn't even notice that Zay was there. So had he said, if I would have held maybe half a second longer, I would have seen Zay and hit him. Yeah. So everybody thought, if you looked at the replay, it looked like he maybe thought Zay was going to stop, and Zay kept going, and that's how he missed him. But he said he didn't even see Zay when he threw the ball. Dang. He thought the ball to Bateman. Yeah. So hearing that, I'm like, if he would have just waited, I understand because it looked like from the perspective of the O-line, he felt like he had to get rid of the ball. Yeah. But if he would have just waited for half a second longer, he said he would have seen Zay. And it's like, as soon as he released the ball, he saw Zay. He was like,
"Oh no!" Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It could have been a whole different outcome potentially. But look, like I went to watch the game with some friends here in Austin, and we went to a sports bar, and we were kind of mingling with there was a lot of Chiefs fans there, which, bandwagon, but whatever. Anyway, and so one of the dudes was a Chiefs fan, and he was like, we won the title last year, but we probably shouldn't have because we weren't that good. Yeah. And that's true because, like, the way they played last year,
it was bad.
You would not have expected them to win the Super Bowl. And the fact that they did is like, well, damn, if that was their off year and they still won, what does that say about the rest of the league, like, long term, right? Because, bro, Xavier Worthy,
Everybody knew he was going to be a problem, and now he's with Mahomes, and it's like,
bro, the first touch he got was a touchdown.
yeah.
Like, I bring all that up because I look at the team last year that won the Super Bowl, and they weren't. I won't say they weren't good. They just weren't as good as far as like the Chiefs, I guess, standard of what you expect from them.
Yeah.
So they've gotten better this year. With they did lose with L'Jarius Sneed, which is like their best corner. I think he went to the Titans. So from a defensive perspective, they may take a dip, but offensively, they're better than what they were last year. At least right now, right? We'll see how the season progresses. Obviously, health matters too. Yeah. But I'm just talking about strictly on paper with Hollywood Brown, who hasn't even touched the field yet. Yeah. And then you got Xavier Worthy, who is, to me, it looks like Tyreek 2.0. And you got Isaiah Pacheco, which if he can stay healthy, he's a beast. Yeah. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with Travis. He's 34 now, I believe. So, I don't know if they necessarily need him to be the Travis of old because they have all those weapons now. And you take away a guy who they kind of depended on, Kadarius Toney last year, who we saw in person last year against the Bills, cost him that game. Yeah. So I felt like they sort of got rid of the struggles that they had on the offensive end and improved. And it's like if the team that seemingly took a step back last year before they won the Super Bowl has gotten better, but also, too, Baltimore still stuck with them. They, like you said, the first two quarters, the middle two quarters, they weren't their best. Yeah, but you kind of saw them working out the kinks, right? Yeah. And Zay Flowers doesn't have a big game numbers wise, but you can see what they're trying to do with him. Like they're intentionally running plays for him. I think he took a couple of handoffs. Like they're trying to get him acclimated to be like a real legitimate wide receiver one. Yeah. And I think he may have learned a lot from Odell last year. Obviously, Odell wasn't his best, but he knows what it takes to be a wide receiver one. And so I think it's possible that he may have learned a lot from him because you can see that next step is coming. Yeah. From a macro perspective, I'm not worried about Baltimore. You would have liked to get this game because you never know. That division may be more competitive with Joe Burrow being healthy now. And, he had his first training camp as a pro where he played through preseason games and is not coming into the season hurt or, at least hampered to some degree. So, we'll see what happens with Jamar Chase, obviously. But, if they're at their height, they'll be good. The other two teams, Cleveland, maybe their defense can carry them. Yeah. I'm not particularly impressed with their offense. But, who knows? That division's tough, but the AFC in general, I think, is just more competitive. Mm-hmm. So, all in all, it was a fun game to watch. I think Baltimore is going to have something to say come playoffs, so we'll obviously get into that in our predictions here later on. But I thought it was a really, really good game, a fun game to kick off the season. I'm excited. I think, AFC is going to be some heavy hitters in the AFC. So this was a preview of that. So it was a fun one to watch. Anything else to add on the game before we touch on the Friday game that happened the other day?
I think it was last year. I think it was Kansas City's defense that stepped up. That's what won them the championship. It was the defense and Mahomes. The entirety of the offense wasn't the same. I think that's why it seemed like they took a step back because in the playoffs, the defense only gave up 15 points a game or something crazy like that. So it's like, it was a down year for the offense, but the defense definitely covered for them, and it was very evident. But as far as the game on Thursday, it was a great way to start the season. What about Friday? Let's get to Friday.
The one last thing, I'll just say, I know L'Jarius Sneed was easily their best. Well, Chris Jones is their best player on defense, but their best secondary player was L'Jarius Sneed. So for him to not be there this year, it'd be interesting to see what they do because L'Jarius Sneed used to travel with whoever he was guarding. And so I don't know if they have a corner. McDuffie's really good, but I don't know if they have a corner that is good enough to travel. And if they don't, how does that kind of work as far as other players or other teams scheming matchups? Because I think the way Baltimore showcased Zay kind of showed a blueprint on how you can now to be fair, like he would have had a lot more numbers if they didn't. It was like at least 2 pass interference calls. They just grabbed them and like pulled them out of the sky damn near. So it'd be interesting to see how they work through that. But the defense definitely carried them, and I don't think it'll be that much of a drop off. So it's like even if the defense does have a little bit of a drop off, the offense said we got you because they definitely upgraded for sure. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll go into the Friday's game, which was an interesting game. It was the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Green Bay Packers, and that game was in Brazil. You can tell that field was not a normal NFL field. The way that there was a lot of slipping, it wasn't good footing in that particular game. I was kind of made for some sloppy play to some degree. But Eagles ended up pulling away with that one, 34-29. Obviously, in Green Bay's last drive, trying to make an attempt to get the win. We saw a nasty tackle and potential injury to Jordan Love. I know he's going to be out. Was it 4 to 6 weeks, I believe I saw, with the MCL injury. But just initial thoughts on the game and how you saw it unfold for the most part.
I thought Packers was going to run away with it early on because like Jordan was able. He wasn't accurate on a lot of the throws, but he was able to make so many plays. Like it was, especially when Philly kept turning the ball over. It's like, okay, here got this turnover. Okay, let's go ahead put up a score. Turn the ball over again. Okay, let's go put up a score. Yeah. So I thought that was going to allow them to just start allow for the offense to get rolling because they kept getting the ball a lot more often with it, and it didn't end up happening as far as because they ended up only kicking field goals after those turnovers.
Yeah,
and then Saquon got going at 3 touchdowns, insane. And last time he had 3 touchdowns was his rookie season, so he's just up into it, and like it was crazy because like the first 2 touchdowns he was celebrating, and then that last one he was like, "I've been there."
Yes, light work.
So, yeah, exactly. So it was crazy to see that, but yeah, Philly's going to be a tough team with the way that the offense is having Saquon, and it's crazy because we was talking about it during the game, what was it, the butt push, if it was going to be as successful, and it wasn't, which was crazy because the only way that it was successful was the offsides by the defense when they came across.
Yeah,
but it was crazy just to see the Packers to be able to stuff it like that, just to show how good Kelsey was up in the middle. Like you already knew he was good, but it just showed it even more with a lot of the plays like that. But overall, I think the game was good. It was unfortunate with Love getting injured, left leg. Said it was MCL. But he did dodge a bullet. He's only out 3 to 6 or 4 to 6?
Somewhere in 3 to 6 range, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So and looking at the schedule, it's not a gauntlet what they'll be going through. So they should be able to stay close within making the playoffs. But yeah, it was a tough watch as far as him getting hurt. Outside of what he did to Dallas in the playoffs, I like him.
Yeah,
just too young and very talented. Thought he was going to be able to what he did. I thought he was going to be able to do the same thing to the Niners in the second round because it was like, Jesus, dude, just watching him make plays. And that's what I was expecting. This year was like it's going to be crazy because like last year they started off slow. Trying to get everything going because it was his first year starting, and then once it hit around right around the midpoint of the season, it's just like everything just changed for them. Their point total went up. They just started running through everybody.
Yeah.
And then hit the playoffs, ran through Dallas, almost ran through the Niners. So it's like, oh, this next year is going to be really interesting to see what they do. They upgraded in the running back position with Josh Jacobs, and then having Love coming to the second year. It's like, okay, this one should be a fun one to watch, especially between seeing what them and Detroit whenever they play, seeing the matchup between those two, because essentially I think that's where the division runs through is those two teams. Overall, now it's more Detroit with the injury to Love for 6 weeks, but I do, but it's going to be fun to watch once it gets back. Though, yeah, that Friday night game was a good one. It was crazy because I was expecting Green Bay's running defense to be much better. Like I felt like they had a good run defense.
Yeah,
and I don't know if it's just Philly that is that much better, or just their run defense just took a huge step back. But I just felt like that their run defense was much better than that, and it just they just made it look easy after a while, just running through them, and that's how they was able to essentially ice the game, was just run it down the throat, take clock off, and hit the field goal, and there was nothing that Green Bay could do.
Yeah,
but it was overall it was a fun game, keeping it close. They when it comes to your kickoff weekend, that's how you want it to be done. Like two really good games on primetime TV, and so they brought it, and it was exciting. What you think?
So I have a couple of thoughts. I'm gonna try and make sure I streamline my thoughts so that I'm not rambling for 20 minutes.
Right.
I'll just start. Excuse me. I'll just start with the game, and then I'll kind of expand because I want to talk about what this means for Green Bay, because Malik Willis is their backup quarterback, and I know you talked about the schedule not being that daunting for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah. I want to go over what their schedule looks like, because Malik Willis couldn't even get a pass off that last drive after Jordan Love got hurt. And I don't know if it's because of a lack of experience. I don't know if it's because the offensive line. I don't know what it was. But anyway, I'll get to that in a second. So the game itself, to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, where you were kind of surprised at how bad the run defense was for Green Bay.
Yeah.
I think Philly just has the best offensive line in the league. And I think that the reason why Saquon's going to look as good as he's going to look is because that offensive line compared to the offensive line he had in New York is night and day.
Yeah, and absolutely.
So to be able to run behind that offensive line is going to open up so much more, I think, from a macro perspective for them, because now you don't have to run Jalen Hurts as much. Yeah. And you potentially get to save him, which also, I don't want to go back to the Thursday night game, but Lamar ran the ball 16 times in that game. That's very surprising to me that you went and got Derrick Henry. And my thought was that was to sort of alleviate the need for Lamar to run as much as he normally has run. And he ran for more carries than Derrick Henry did in that game. Yeah. I don't know if that was a particular thing with the game plan or what it was. I don't know if Lamar just kind of decided to do it on his own as far as like plays breaking down and him just running. There weren't a ton of design runs for him. So I tend to think that it was just him deciding to leave the pocket. But 16 carries is a lot. And that doesn't bode well if you extrapolate that for an entire season, especially now they're playing 17 games. So my hope is that they're not going to do that as much as they did in that game, because why did you get Derrick Henry if you're going to have him run the ball over 10 times a game? But anyway, we're done with that game. But in this game in particular, my thought is that Saquon is there to alleviate the need for Jalen to run as much. I don't know, with Kellen Moore being there now, obviously there weren't a lot of designed DAC runs when he was the OC for the Cowboys. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because he obviously got hurt and so they just decided to scale it back anyway, or if it was designed, we're not going to really depend on that too much.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to kind of see how they balance that with Kellen Moore's scheme. If there's a thought of scaling back the need to have Jalen run as much, that's one thought. But I don't think they need to because we saw what Saquon did. There's no need to put Jalen at risk. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason to.
Yeah.
So their run game can potentially help Jalen Hurts because he made a lot of mistakes last year as far as reading defenses and throwing picks. If you're not requiring him to throw the ball as much, that bodes well for them as a whole from their offensive perspective.
Yeah.
Their defense still looks bad.
Yeah.
To me. So I don't know how that is going to go long term. I know they play Green Bay, and obviously Green Bay, like you just talked about, showed in the back half of last year that they can be one of the better offenses in the league.
Yeah.
We saw that firsthand when they played the Cowboys, and they hung with San Francisco for the majority of that game in the divisional playoff round. So it's not like they played a slouch, right? But I would have expected them to make necessary changes based off the fact they had the collapse they had in the last year to kind of shore that defense up. And I didn't really see a whole lot to feel like they really fixed it. Yeah. The front line, obviously, Fletcher Cox retired, so that's going to have an impact on what they're able to do there. But you got like a Jalen Carter and like all these guys that you drafted high to sort of kind of spell or at least to kind of shore up that defensive line. And I don't really see a whole lot of improvement. It's one game, so I don't want to like make it seem like they just haven't done anything, but they squeak one out. I don't know. I mean, obviously they made stops when they needed to on that last drive before Jordan Love got hurt. But before he got hurt, they were moving the ball down the field. And then one last thing, and you know personally, this impacted me. Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
I don't know how this works now with obviously with Jordan Love getting hurt. But we saw that something was there before that. Yeah. Obviously, we know that their wide receivers, they kind of got all these young wide receivers all at once, and they started to kind of grow and gel all at the same time last year. Obviously, Christian Watson's their number one, and you know he showed out last year all year. Even before their offense caught up, he was already showing big numbers. But then you get Jaden Reed kind of showing up in the back half of last year. So they have like 3 or 4 guys that they can consistently go to. I don't know how much that is impacted with Jordan Love going down. Sure, it's impacted at least to some degree. Yeah. Because they just got Malik Willis like in week 3 of preseason from the Titans. So he hasn't really had a whole lot of time with them. It wasn't like he was there like throughout training camp or OTAs or anything like that. So they're going to have to kind of create that chemistry on the go. And so that's why I wanted to quickly pivot to what their next 4 to 6 games look like, because we kind of talked about this in pre-production, like that division, you could before this, you could have seen 3 teams making the playoffs between them, Chicago, and Detroit. Yeah. But now it's like, I don't know what they do. So you got week 2 is against the Colts for them. Week 3 is against the Titans. Week 4 is against the Vikings. Week 5 is against the Rams, and week 6 is against the Cardinals. Yeah. Week 7 against the Texans. They're not. If he's not there, they're not winning that game.
Nah.
But the other 4 Titans, well 5 Colts, Titans, Vikings, Rams, Cardinals. To your point, it's not a daunting schedule.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a quarterback, I don't know. The Colts have gotten better. Obviously, they have Anthony Richardson back. They hope that he's going to be able to be healthy. The Titans are that's kind of a mixed bag.
They got a new coach.
I'm not sure what to think about that team.
I'm not expecting much from them with the new coach. They said trying to figure themselves out.
Yeah, and obviously they a new quarterback obviously coming in. The Vikings, they got Sam Darnold as a quarterback, so not really expecting a whole lot of them. The Rams are who they are. Cardinals, I feel like they're gonna be better this year. Yeah. But to me, it's like, let's just say they go through 6 games and they split them, which I don't know. that means you're starting out 3-4.
Yeah.
And I don't know in that division how much you can make up, even if he comes back. Let's say he comes back for that Texans game.
Yeah.
Then you got Jacksonville, Detroit, Chicago, Niners, Dolphins, Lions again. Like that. When he comes back, that schedule gets a lot tougher.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not going to have those cupcake games to kind of pad your record back up.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't want to say it's over because it's not, but that don't look good.
Yeah.
Like for them, as far as like being able to make the playoffs or at least to get a wild card spot. I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think it's because most of their divisional games are after he gets back is why they have a shot at the playoffs. If they would have been, if their divisional games if they would have had more within those the early weeks, then yeah, it was like I'm not sure. I'm not sure because like it's divisional can go either way all the time, but but because they're at the bottom part of the schedule, I think that's what gives them a chance to make the playoffs when he gets back is because of that. Because he played Detroit twice, Chicago twice, and then Vikings towards the end of the season. So I think that alone is what's going to give them a shot with them making the playoffs because that's a lot of conference and divisional games.
I hear you.
It's going to be a tough
I just
yeah.
I think Malik Willis, I think the Titans just asked for a 7th round pick for him.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I don't know where these wins come from. I'm saying they split like to be optimistic, but I don't even see where they get 3 wins. Like maybe Minnesota because they got Sam Darnold, but their defense has gotten better. You know, they got Stephon Gilmore. They already had, they had a rookie last year that was a corner, did really well. So they got a better secondary, which, I mean, obviously doesn't bode well if your quarterback isn't that good.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they get these 3 wins from. I don't know, man. We'll see. Like I said, I don't want to write them off, but damn, if he can come back in 4 weeks, then, you know, on the shorter end of that 4 to 6 weeks, then that would be great. But we talked about this before we started recording. Like, you don't want to rush him back
at all,
and you just paid him a whole bunch of money to be your quarterback. So if this year is tanked, you know, and it is what it is. Maybe you can get some help if the season doesn't go the way you want in the draft. But I hate it for him because I was excited to watch them. Like, we'll see what happens, man. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'm just interested now because you look at where that team is compared to where they were and what the potential was, and it's just we'll see. Any final thoughts on the Friday night game before we move into this week's slate?
No, it was a good one. It's going to be interesting to see throughout the season what Philly does as far as defensively. Because that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I thought Green Bay was going to be able to put up a bunch of points was because of the turnovers, and then I just felt like their offense was much better than what Philly's defense was. But they were able to just hold it down just long enough to win. But after a while, George.
Man, I lost Will for a little bit, but look, I don't want to make it seem like the sky is falling for Green Bay, but we'll see. Obviously, we don't know how long he's going to be out, but that's going to be a huge blow for them. But again, there's no reason to rush him back, get him back healthy, because obviously if he comes back and he doesn't, he re-injures himself, it's even worse. So 4 to 6 weeks sounds like an ideal time frame. They kind of dodged a bullet because initially when I looked at that injury, it looked like he broke his ankle. So for it to just be MCL sprain, it's kind of a bright side type of thing. But we'll see how things go. So as we wait for Will to get back in here, we were going to move to week 1 predictions. And so the way we're going to do it is we'll just go down the schedule, give initial thoughts on each game and then give a prediction. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up week 1 schedule here. So the first game that's scheduled today is the Steelers against the Falcons. I think both of these teams have gone through a lot of changes in the offseason. Obviously, with the Falcons, they signed Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal, and then also turned around and drafted Michael Penix in the first round of the draft. So it's kind of interesting to see how they're going to work through the fact that they signed a big money free agent quarterback in the offseason and then a month later drafted a quarterback in the first round. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how that goes. I'm sure because they paid Cousins that amount of money they pay him, that he'll kind of have a little bit of a longer leash. But I'm sure that he'll have Michael Penix on his neck. So we'll see how that goes. And then obviously with the Steelers, they traded for Justin Fields and then they signed Russell Wilson in the offseason. So both these teams are kind of going through changing of the guard, to say the least, with at least from the quarterback position. So we'll see how things go from that perspective. I'm interested to see this game, honestly, because I don't know how the season is going to go for either one of these teams. The Steelers, I think, have a better defense, although the Falcons' defense played really well last year. So I expect this to be a low-scoring game because I don't, obviously both these teams are trying to get their footing as far as offensively. For the Falcons, they have a ton of weapons, obviously, with Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Drake London and those boys. So you would like to think that just plugging in a quarterback will sort of kind of be the missing piece to unlock a lot of their potential offensively. Yeah. I just don't know if Kirk Cousins is that guy. I mean, we've seen him make runs in Minnesota in the past, but they didn't make deep runs. I think he only had one playoff win in his career, which playoff wins are not a quarterback stat. We're not getting into that. But it just goes to show that we don't know how he's going to elevate this offense. Obviously, they got close to the playoffs last year with like Mariota playing some quarterback. And obviously, we know he hasn't been the guy they thought he would be when he was drafted. So we'll see how things go. But either way, the Steelers obviously have a vaunted defense. We know that for sure. Their offensive talent to me is lacking. I mean, we saw Jaylen Warren have kind of a breakout season last year at the running back position. Obviously, they have George Pickens as their wide receiver 1, and they have Pat Freiermuth. But if you line up both offenses at the same time and say, Falcons RB1, Bijan Robinson obviously is not as – Jaylen Warren doesn't lace his boots, to be honest. George Pickens is a good wide receiver 1. I don't think he's as good as Drake London. And talent-wise, you would say Kyle Pitts over Pat Freiermuth, but for whatever reason, Kyle Pitts has not been able to get it together since he's been drafted in the first round. So This was a toss-up for me. I would probably lean towards the Falcons in this one because they're at home. And Russell Wilson also is a game-time decision. He hurt his calf. Yeah. And so he might not even start this game. It may be a situation where they end up going to Justin Fields to start. So I feel like because that quarterback position is in flux for them, they don't know who's going to go at this point. I'm going to go with the Falcons because at least they've had the opportunity to get some first-team reps in with Kirk Cousins, and they've been able to kind of build a rapport, build a chemistry there. So I'm going to go with the Falcons in this one. Not a lot of confidence in that, but that's what I'm going to go with. Week 2, the next game is going to be the Cardinals going up against the Bills. It's the Bills, bro. I'm interested to see how the Cardinals do. They obviously got Kyler Murray back. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. So they got some wide receiver power there. Trey McBride looks like he might make a big step as far as being their tight end. So there is some good pieces there. I really can't make heads or tails of their defense, to be honest. I mean, they're okay, but they're not going to be world beaters. They're probably middle of the pack as far as they go. So, I don't know what their game plan is to stop the Bills. Obviously, the Bills is the first year without them having Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen era. We'll see how that goes. They drafted Keon Coleman to be sort of that replacement. They've got a lot of new pieces as far as the wide receiver room is concerned, but offensive line is still one of the best in the league. Josh Allen's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. James Cook, one of the best running backs in the league. So they have the talent on offense. Their defense is still, for the most part, intact. We'll see how that goes. But for this game, there's not much of a concern. I think Arizona, this game won't really be the reflection of what Arizona does as far as the regular season goes. I think they'll still be really good. But the Bills will probably take care of them pretty handily in this game. So I'm going to pick the Bills. Next game on the docket, we have the Tennessee Titans going up against the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams' debut. Luckily, he gets to be at home against a Titans team that, to be honest, I don't know what to expect from them this year. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier when we were discussing the Packers' schedule in the next few weeks. Not really sure what to make of the Titans. Obviously, they have a new coach. They're starting the Will Levis era there this year, so we'll see how it goes. If I'm honest, the Bears are just deeper. Pause. They have a lot more talent on the offensive end. Their defense is obviously very good as well. And so we'll talk about predictions here in a little bit. I got the Bears making the playoffs. So if you're going to make the playoffs, you got to beat teams like the Titans, who we aren't really sure what to make heads and tails of. So in this game in particular, I'm going to pick the Chicago Bears at home to take care of the Titans in week 1. Next game, we have the New England Patriots going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Patriots, another one of those teams that's like there's not really a lot to expect from them this year. I think they got Jacoby Brissett back there starting for them, but they also drafted Drake May. So maybe quarterback competition there, not really sure. Seems like Jacoby Brissett's more of a Band-Aid, and they're probably looking at Drake May to be like their future. But they obviously are struggling to pick up after Tom Brady left in terms of trying to figure out their way. So going up against a Cincinnati team, which I talked about a little bit earlier, has Joe Burrow, who's been able to have his first real preseason since he's been in the league. There's been all these issues where he had a calf issue, back issue, thumb issue, where he didn't really have any time in the preseason or training camp to get acclimated to the players that they brought in and just overall building the chemistry before the regular season. So the Bengals are always kind of notoriously slow starters in the regular season, but it's because Joe Burrow doesn't have that preseason to sort of get acclimated. So I think now that he's had that time to get acclimated, they should start the season a lot better than they have in years past. Obviously, getting the Patriots in week 1 is a good way to start to sort of get that momentum going. For those that aren't aware, if you're watching this, you probably already know, but Jamar Chase sat out the majority of the preseason over contract dispute. He still has 2 years on his deal, so it's not like they have to pay him right now. I think maybe he thought that holding out would lead them to pay him, but they haven't done it. They did not give him an extension. He still has 2 years left on his rookie deal. And so he came back this past week to practice. He practiced some days he sat out. So I don't really know what his status is going to be for week 1. Even if he plays, I'm sure he's not going to play the full complement of games. And so from that perspective, it's kind of hard to justify really having a lot of confidence in what they're going to do, at least from Jamar's perspective. T. Higgins going into last year of his deal, they don't expect for him to be back. So he's going to have a lot to prove because he's playing for a new deal, likely somewhere else. But I don't think they need Jamar Chase to beat the Patriots. So I'm going to go with the Bengals to take care of business week 1. Hopefully Joe Burrow has a good game, and they'll kind of get off to a good start to start week 1 of the season. Next game, we have the Houston Texans visiting the Indianapolis Colts. This one should be interesting because the Colts played really well last year despite losing Anthony Richardson like in week 5 of the season. They still were a game away from making the playoffs. So to see them do what they did to sort of still kind of stay afloat until week 17 or week 18 rather, and lose to the Texans to lose that final playoff spot. To have Anthony Richardson back, who knows what they're going to do this year? Their ceiling is pretty high, in my opinion, depending on health, obviously. So going up against the Texans, who were the darlings of the league last year, kind of took the league by storm. winning the AFC South unexpectedly. We saw what C.J. Stroud was able to do. Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. Will Anderson Jr., Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. We saw that defense step up and make plays in timely moments. The Texans obviously getting Stephon Diggs in a trade from the Bills. Should be interesting to see how that works out. I'm interested because for them specifically, you already had offensive explosion last year, with C.J. Stroud, with Tank Dell, with getting the tight end from the Cowboys last year, Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins having a breakout year last year. They already had a lot of talent on the offensive end. They didn't need to get Stephon Diggs. So I'm interested to see what version of Stephon Diggs that we get, because this is essentially a make it or break a year for him, because this is the last year of his deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect the Texans to re-sign him. So this to me is like a rental, and he has to kind of audition for his next contract. And so there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes about whether or not bringing him into that wide receiver room with those young guys, a young Tank Dell, a young Nico Collins, a young Xavier Hutchinson, is there going to be any issue with him potentially like being a bad apple and sort of having a negative impact on that wide receiver room? I don't see that happening because DeMeco Ryans has built a culture on that team to where it's not one player over the team. It's always team first. And so I think having a coach like that, that's no nonsense, will sort of alleviate any potential issue that may come with a disgruntled Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
My issue, or again, not issue, but my concern with them is how do they distribute the ball now that they've got all these weapons on offense? You already had explosive offense. Now you're bringing in another number one wide receiver. You just gave Nico Collins a contract extension and paid him like he's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring in another number one now. And so it's like, okay, well, then Tank slides to the number 3 receiver. How does that kind of play out?
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of, in their preseason, they didn't play a lot of games, a lot of snaps together. And so we don't really know how it's going to look. Again, I'm not like super concerned about it, but I just kind of wonder if there's an issue with Stephon Diggs doesn't get the touches he wants, if that sort of impacts the locker room as a whole. We don't know, but I think this whole division is going to be interesting. So having a divisional game week 1 against probably your outside of the Jaguars, your toughest competition in that division, is going to be interesting. I'm stalling because I don't know who to pick in this game. I'm going to pick the Texans in this game. I think it's going to be a close game. This one I have zero confidence level. I think it can go either way. I'm really interested to see how both offenses look. On the defensive end, the Texans have gotten a lot better because they got Danielle Hunter, and they made some nice free agent signings. And Derek Stingley, I'm going to call it right now, he might be all in NFL as far as defensive backs go. He looks really good. He's looked really good in the preseason. I'm expecting him to take a leap. And so their secondary, I think, is going to take a leap as well. So they got a chance to be a really good team this year, but so do the Colts. So I'm picking the Texans. Not a lot of confidence in that, but I got to pick somebody, so I'm going to go with the Texans. Speaking of the Jaguars, next game on the docket is going to be the Jaguars going into Miami to play the Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, this might be a make or break year for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Last year was tough. They made the playoffs, but they had to go play Kansas City in the freezer.
Yeah.
Negative degrees wind chill factor in that game. So it's kind of tough when you're playing in Miami all year in South Florida, and then you have to go play in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. And so, I kind of want to give them a pass on that, but, there's only so many opportunities. You have so many bites of the apple, especially in the AFC. It's going to be difficult. This is a tough matchup for them first game, Jacksonville started off the season like this last year and then nosedived the second half of the year. And so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. In this particular game, I'm going to pick the Dolphins. Their defense, I feel like, has gotten better. They just signed Jalen Ramsey to an extension a couple of days ago. So there's a lot of confidence there. Jaden Phillips got hurt last year. He's back and he's healthy this year.
Yeah.
So that should help their pass rush. A little iffy on their interior on the defensive line, but they have enough pieces to kind of at least be, I would say, middle of the pack as far as rankings in the defense is concerned. Offense, we know what it is already. As long as Tua can stay healthy, they'll be one of the best offenses in the league. Between him, I think Jalen Waddle is still hurt, so I'm not sure if he's playing this week. But you got Tyreek Hill, obviously, Raheem Mostert. Like you got A-Chain, Devon A-Chain. So they have a lot of players on the offensive end. I think the biggest question for them is going to be defense, and I feel like they've gotten healthier on that side of the ball. Part of the reason why they kind of fell off last year was because their defense got hurt. They got hit with a lot of injuries last year. And so having those guys back and healthy should give them the boost that they need to be able to kind of get over the hump this year. They're still in a tough division. Well, they have a tough division opponent in the Bills. The rest of the division, we don't know what the Jets are going to be. But we know that the Bills will be contenders. And so it could be 3 teams that come out of the division in playoffs. We'll see how it goes. But for this particular game, I'm going to go with the Dolphins to get the win. Next game, Carolina Panthers going up against the Saints. Both these teams stink, let's be honest. I'll give the edge to the Saints because they're at home, but I don't expect a whole lot out of either of these teams. Saints defense is one of the best defenses in the league, but their offense is just flat out atrocious. I don't know that they really solved any of the issues they had last year. Obviously, health was a factor, but Derek Carr just did not seem to really fit well in that scheme. I just don't have a lot of expectations for them, at least offensively. Obviously, they still have Alvin Kamara, which, no matter what, if all else fails, give it to Alvin Kamara and he'll make something happen. But that's really it on their offense, at least in my opinion. So I don't expect a lot out of them. Despite all that I'm saying about the Saints offense, I think the Panthers offense is even worse than that. They drafted Jonathan Brooks out of Texas as a running back, but he's not ready to play yet. He tore his ACL last year, so he's not ready to go. They also drafted Xavier Legette, which could potentially be a good guy, a wide receiver, but he leaves a lot to be desired. So I don't really know what they're going to get out of that offense and their defense. I mean, it doesn't really matter if your offense can't do anything. You can have the best defense in the league, but if your offense doesn't give you time to get rest and put up points, then they kind of leave you out to dry. So they lost Brian Burns. I believe he went to the Giants. And so they lost one of their better players in the offseason. So, like I said, I don't expect a lot out of them. I mean, I'm picking the Saints only because they're at home, and I think overall they have a better team, but I won't be interested in that game at all. So I'm going to pick the Saints. Next game, the Vikings are visiting the New York Giants. Another one of those games that probably going to leave a lot to be desired.
So many interceptions.
The Giants, they have. I don't know. I'm trying to be nice.
They got neighbors.
I don't really know what to say about the Giants.
Neighbors.
I mean, they did just sign Brian Burns in the offseason, so their defense should be a lot better. I just don't know that getting Malik Neighbors is going to be enough to revamp that offense. They obviously lost Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, and so you lost your most important weapon on offense, and you replace him with Malik Neighbors, who has the potential to be electric, obviously, but if your quarterback can get him the ball, he's not going to be effective. So I don't know about either one of these teams. The Vikings obviously signed Sam Darnold in free agency, and then they drafted JJ drafted him from the Michigan Wolverines, but he got hurt. He's in IR. He's out for the year, and so you're stuck with Sam Darnold being your quarterback. So I don't know. That's not really gotten anybody anywhere. So I'm not expecting to do anything for the Vikings either. For this particular game, however, I'm going to pick the Vikings. I don't have any faith in the Giants until they show me they can be a winning team. I'm not picking them. So I'm going to go with the Vikings on that one. We'll kind of go through these other ones here really quickly. Ravens against the Chargers. Raiders, against the Chargers. I like the Raiders in this game. Now, I don't like their quarterback situation at all. They have Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback this year, but they have so much talent around him that I think that, obviously you have one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in the league in Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
They got Brock Bowers as a high draft pick at tight end. So there's weapons there, and I think they have the opportunity to do something there. But when you're in a division where the Chiefs are in the division, there's not a lot of hope.
Playing for number 2.
But you also have to win these other divisional games to at least give yourself a chance to make a wild card spot. The game against Chargers, obviously, is a divisional game, and so they need to win this game. Chargers, obviously, first game under the Jim Harbaugh regime. They've sort of revamped their offense. Austin Eckler is no longer there. Mike Williams is no longer there. And then, obviously, they traded Keenan Allen to the Bears, so he's no longer there either. So they revamped their whole wide receiver room. So, obviously, Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. This might be a make or break year for him too. He really hasn't done a whole lot. I think they made the playoffs once and win the wild card game in that particular round. So we'll see. Jim Harbaugh can hopefully unlock things for him. I like Justin Herbert a lot. I think he's got a lot of potential, but we haven't seen anything. And so Jim Harbaugh obviously didn't draft Justin Herbert. So I would feel like potentially at some point, if he feels like that's not working, that he may want to move on from him. But it'll be interesting. And I like the Raiders more in this game, despite the fact that Gardner Minshew is – you start Gardner Minshew, there's a lot to be desired at the quarterback position. But like I said, they got Brock Bowers in their draft. They're expecting a lot from him. You obviously still have Devontae Adams. You're expecting a lot from him. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to pick the Raiders in that one. Not a ton of confidence in that one, but I don't really see a lot of confidence or a lot of faith in the Chargers. They got rid of their whole wide receiver core. Yeah. And so, it'll take them time to get acclimated. Even if they are good, I don't know if week 1 is the week to kind of break out. So we'll see how that goes. Welcome back, bro. We went through like the first 5 or 6 games. I want to touch on something really quick before we move on. I want to get your opinion on one piece that I was kind of going back and forth about.
Okay.
So I haven't discussed this publicly, but I have recently denounced my Cowboys fanhood for my own mental health and well-being.
Yeah.
And so for the year, I have adopted, I'm supporting the Texans, not Houston, just Texans, right?
Yeah.
I was going back and forth because I really like the Texans. Obviously, they got Stephon Diggs. They traded for him for the Bills. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not he could potentially have a negative impact on them because of 2 reasons. One, we saw what they did last year without him, with their merger of Tank Dell, with their mergers of Nico Harris. I'm talking about thinking of the Mavericks. With Nico Collins. And then obviously Dalton Schultz played well last year as well. Yeah. There's been questions about whether or not they need him or whether or not he could negatively impact that offense because he's in the last year of his deal, and the talk around Texans Twitter is that they don't expect for him to be re-signed by the Texans. This is almost like a 1-year rental for them. Yeah. And so knowing that he needs to kind of get to pad his numbers to get the next contract, whether it's in Houston or somewhere else, how CJ Stroud is able to kind of balance knowing that he's going to want to get his targets, but then not neglecting the guys that got them into the playoffs last year, and Nico Collins and Tank Dell and the rest of those guys. I'm intrigued to kind of see how they balance that. But I just wanted to get your kind of general thoughts on, could it potentially be negative that they got him? Because now you have to sort of placate to what he wants and make sure that he doesn't end up being a distraction, because that wide receiver room is so young that you don't want any of his bad habits to rub off on him. And one of the things that was talked about before he left Buffalo was how disgruntled he was about his lack of touches and how it kind of started rubbed off on the rest of the wide receiver room. And so they felt the need to, even though his relationship with Josh was not bad, you can kind of sense that things were starting to kind of deteriorate. And so they wanted to make the move before things got really, really bad. So just wanted to get your opinion on that. If you feel like it might be an issue, or just like I was kind of going back and forth because I think the Colts have gotten a lot better. Obviously, they almost made the playoffs last year despite Anthony Richardson being hurt, and so now that you have a healthy Anthony Richardson, they could be a lot better this year. So I ultimately picked the Texans, but I was kind of going back and forth in my head about it. So just wanted to get your touch on that game because honestly, the rest of the games we've gone over so far, no one cares about. But just what's your opinion on that game and what you think about the Texans potentially having issues at that wide receiver position?
I think Texans will win that one. I think it's going to be good for him. Him being a contract season, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to play nice because he doesn't want to seem like a cancer guy. You know, kind of like what they put on T.O. as far as like putting him in and just be terrible. So I do think that Hill will be nice, but also I feel like that's like number one receiver mentality. Like give me the doggone ball type of situation, especially like if the offense isn't humming as you expect it to be. Like that's what you want your number one receiver, because like even when we went to that Buffalo game, he didn't get the touches that I expected for him to get, and they end up losing that game. So that's why I would understand like the frustration. Is like, I'm your number one target. I'm your number one guy. It's kind of like what Dallas had to do with CD. Like early last year, CD wasn't getting that many touches. The offense was stagnant. They started getting him about 10 to 12 touches a game. The offense started opening up because he was getting so many touches, allowed other people to get into more space and make plays as well. So I think that's the same situation. So I think also he'll see that he's not necessarily needed as well. You know, that even losing Tank Dell last year, that the offense was still balling. So it's and you're just an added piece for us at this point, just to essentially we feel like we can win the division without you. We can make the playoffs without you. We can make it to the second round without you. We're adding you to see if you're a kind of guy that will take us to the next level. How bad do you want to get to the next level? Is essentially I feel like that's why they brought him in. It's that is the fire in you to get more money, or is the fire in you to win? If it's to win, then we'll be fine. If it's to get more money, then yeah, this will be the only gear that you're here for sure. So I think that's going to be the whole situation. But I think it'll be fine. Especially since I think having the type of guy that Stroud is, young, he seems real even keel. Like a type of person that you want at quarterback to keep everything stable. So I think that will help us well. So I see Stephon just coming in, essentially playing nice. I think he'll be able to get his numbers. It won't be like receiver one numbers, but I think it'll be good numbers still, because I mean you only got one ball to get around, and you have a ton of talent, so it's going to be spread out. But I do think he'll be able to get nice numbers. It'll be like maybe every other game or so, just from how defenses rotate and try to defend the receivers. But I think he'll have nice numbers, and he'll be able to play nice for them. But yeah, I think it's a huge pickup for them because he has made deep playoff runs. So I think that will help Houston to know, so to make these runs, like this is the type of work that you got to put in.
One of the things you talked about that I didn't even think about, and we got breaking news. I don't know if you saw it. We can talk about that in a second. So one of the things that you brought up that I didn't think about, which is right, is like, look, we've done this without you. We've won a division without you. We made the playoff run without you last year. So we don't need you.
Yeah.
It'd be nice. It's a great addition that it could potentially propel us to the next level, but we can do this without you. You know, we'll figure it out. This is an opportunity for you to sort of get, like you said, an opportunity to kind of springboard yourself into the next contract, whether it's with them or somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then one of the things I brought up too earlier, as I was going through these, was like D'Amico Ryans has established a culture there that to me is like no nonsense.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's gonna fly, even if you want it to be that way. That culture they built there is like this is a team culture. We're not doing it's not we over me. And so to have him come in and potentially be that, I don't know. I don't even think it's gonna fly. But my I guess my trepidation was the fact that CJ's young, Tank is young, Nico Collins is younger, like, but you're right. Like, I think CJ is just a level-headed dude that type of stuff probably won't affect him. And if anything, it makes Stephon look dumb compared to everybody else, knowing that they've already established a culture that got them the division last year and then won a playoff game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I didn't think about that. That's a really good point. So yeah, Texans. So there's not a lot of compelling games in this slate. So I left off going over the Raiders and the Chargers, so we could pick up on the Broncos and Seahawks.
Yep.
Look, Broncos, they have Bo Nix as their starting quarterback, and look, I'm not gonna talk bad about Bo Nix. I haven't seen enough to really judge. I think he played well at Oregon last year. So we'll see how things go. He won the starting job outright in the preseason, so respect to him for that. I'm more intrigued about the Seahawks in this game because we saw them play well last year. Obviously not well enough to make a run, but I think another year we're having Geno Smith as a starter under their belt, and then having Kenneth Walker as their running back. Obviously, we know what DK Metcalf can do. They have a good receiving core. I think their defense is kind of where their weak issue may be, as far as them getting to the level they want to get to as far as making the playoffs and making a run. I think the defense may be the issue that may hold them back.
Yeah.
But for me in particular, I'm going to pick the Seahawks in this game. I'm just interested to see how the defense holds up as far as the regular season goes. For this particular game, I'm picking the Seahawks. What's your pick in this one?
Yeah, I got Seahawks as well. I think so. Bo overall played well until he played talented teams last season. So I think that's going to be his struggle. Is now every team is essentially talented. It's just the level of talent, and I think Seattle has enough talent, especially on defense, to just disrupt. It's not like top 5 defense, but I think they have enough talent on that side of the ball just to disrupt him. So that's I think that's where they're going to be able to walk away with this one handedly. It'd be his first career start in the pros. He'll make some mistakes as expected. But yeah, I have Seattle walking away with this one.
Okay. We'll skip the next game because there's some breaking news attached to it, and we'll kind of just go back to that one. Going to late game slate, or continuing late game slate, we have the new look, the Washington Commanders with new head coach, new quarterback, new a lot of stuff. New running backs now. They got Austin Eckler. They made a lot of changes. The Commanders did. They're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game. Because we don't know what the Commanders are going to look like, for me, it's hard to pick this game. I'm going to pick the Commanders, bro. I mean, we'll get into predictions here in a second. I think the Bucs are going to win the NFC South, but that's because there's nobody else in the division that's worth a damn, in my opinion. Not so much because they're very good. But I'm intrigued to see what Jaden Daniels does. I'm excited for him to have the opportunity, and the Bucs have a good defense, and obviously their team is defensive oriented. So this is a hell of a first game to kind of see what you're made of going up against that Bucs defense. But I like Jaden Daniels a lot. I like what the Commanders have done as far as bringing in new pieces. Obviously, new head coach Dan Quinn, so they're going to be motivated to get this first win of the season. So it's a tough road game, in my opinion, going up against Tampa. Because say what you want about Tampa, they're a tough game, the tough team to beat at home, unless you're the Cowboys. But I would pick Washington in this game. I think it'll be an interesting game to see. I'm actually excited about watching this game. But now that we've seen what we've seen as far as the breaking news, I don't know how I'm gonna split the TV. But My pick would be Washington in this game. I'm gonna go with the Commanders.
For me, it's the same. My thing is because of Dan Quinn. It's not a West Coast team that they're playing against, or NFC West. So since it's not an NFC West team, the defense will play well. It'll be Jaden Daniels. They won the Heisman last year. He's talented.
Yeah.
He's a mobile quarterback. Definitely looks to throw the ball downfield. And I would also give him a little leeway to say that, okay, I'm not saying that the college teams are pros, but I think he was, over the past 2 years, he saw more pro-ish type defenses.
Okay.
I say that much. As far as like the talent, like the collective talent on defensive side of the ball, the speed as well. I know the NFL is going to be much faster.
Yeah.
Have a lot more talent. I'm not saying it's only the SEC that had those type of defenses.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying overall he was able to see more pro-ish defenses the last 2 years. So I think that will help him for coming into the league, and then he's able to. He doesn't necessarily look to run, but dude can run.
Mm-hmm.
So he has the talent for it. So I think that's really going to help him, especially to start this year off. And I think he played pretty well. Well, he won the Heisman last year, so of course he played well in the game. But against those defenses, I think he played well enough against those defenses to feel a little bit more comfortable against what Tampa is going to roll out. So yeah, that's what I think. I think I have the Commanders. I think he'll be comfortable enough that if he doesn't like the play downfield, he'll be able to move around. And then I think Commanders defense will play well enough against Tampa.
And I think what's interesting too that doesn't get talked about a lot is that when you're a young quarterback and your head coach is defensive minded, there's so much that he can kind of teach you as far as what to look for and how to avoid certain traps and, you know, how to sort of work your way out of certain schemes and things like that. That I think you have that as like a kind of a back pocket that helps you out a lot, because when you're an offensive minded coach, you just see one side of the ball. I'm not saying they don't know anything about defense, but like you're geared on that side of the ball. And so there may not be a lot of sort of, hey, watch out for this in this situation or that situation, because you know you're prioritizing that side of the ball. Whereas having a defensive minded coach, they can kind of give you the answer to the test almost. It kind of helps you develop even faster, in my opinion, because you're already getting the nurturing you need from an offensive perspective, but then you're also getting some perspective on a defensive end that may help you sort of accelerate your growth process as well. And so, yeah, look, you ain't got to qualify what you were saying about the defense in the SEC. Everybody but yeah, I mean, look, when you're in obviously transfer from Arizona State, you know, made a lot of difference. I don't know that he get drafted if he stays in Arizona State. And so to get into LSU and to have that exposure definitely helps because you're going to see a lot of those dudes you see in the SEC. You're going to see them playing on Sundays anyway. And so, I get the analogy 100%. Last game, the Sunday night game, I'll say, is going to be the Rams versus Detroit Lions. Obviously, Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit. We obviously know the history that's there. So it should be an interesting game. I'm picking the Lions only because it's the Lions, bro. It sounds nuts now. But I mean, to me, and we'll get to predictions, to me, the Lions are probably the second best team in the conference. And so with that, the Rams have gotten better, right? They, you know, and health has obviously always been an issue for them. But they just, you know, Aaron Donald retired last year, so they're the first year post Aaron Donald. So obviously their defense is going to take a hit as far as their efficiency is concerned. So when you got a high, I won't say high power, when you have a good offense like Detroit, obviously they're going to exploit that as well. But yeah, easily for me, I'm picking Detroit in this game. Not saying a blowout, but I don't see them losing this game against the Rams. We'll see what Matthew Stafford does. Maybe he shows out at Ford Field, who knows? But because I think the Lions defense is going to be the question mark for them, right? Like that could be what makes or breaks them is how their defense is. They made strides last year. They got better. But that could be their weak link if there is one for them. And
Mhm.
so we'll see how that goes long term. But for this game in particular, I feel like it's pretty easy to pick Detroit in this one. What about you?
Yeah, I'm taking Detroit as well. I think this is going to be a revenge tour for Detroit because of how they lost in the title game,
Mm-hmm.
or the NFC title game,
Yeah.
because they should have won that game. And so I think the defense is going to be amped up, especially for this game. I don't know how they'll be for the full season, but for this game for sure, just to give up the lead that they did. And so yeah, it's Detroit's going to be so loud there.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy loud. But I'm looking. This is going to be a fun game to watch and see how Stafford plays. But Detroit's going to be live. It's going to be loud. I got Detroit in this one.
Yeah, they're just. It's gonna be hard to see. It's gonna be hard to beat Detroit this year. Like, and everybody was laughing
Yeah.
at
biting kneecaps.
yeah, everybody kneecaps and all that. And to be fair, I get it because I was too.
Mhm.
But man, like they just, it's gonna be interesting. I'll just say it's gonna be interesting to see how things work out for them this year. I'm excited to see what they do. And now that I want to be that horse, but now that we see what happened in Green Bay,
Mhm.
you know, the coast may be even more clear for them in that division. And so if they're able to kind of build those divisional wins to get a better conference record, we never know. They may end up being in one seed. We know now, we kind of see now that there's only one bye in the playoffs and it's the number one seed, how much that could potentially propel you. So we'll see how it goes. To see what they do long term. Monday night game. I mean, we don't know what we're going to get from the Jets. Obviously, the Jets are going into town to play the San Francisco 49ers in their Monday night game. I'm glad they're only doing one Monday night football game. I think they did that last year too, so we can just stick to that. I don't want to see no more two. We don't need no more. We don't need two.
No, just give us the Friday. Give us the Friday game and give us one Monday night game. We're good.
And we're good. We don't need that no more. So this game, obviously, we know what the 49ers are about. They didn't make a whole lot of changes. They didn't really need to. They made a Super Bowl last year. Obviously, fell short to the eventual champs and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The biggest question mark in this one is the Jets. Obviously, they're getting their quarterback back, Aaron Rodgers, and they look. I just don't know what to make of this team because we haven't really seen them. They got a lot of talent. Obviously, Breece Hall's a beast. They have a lot of talent on offensive end and the defensive end as well. Quentin Williams is one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Like they have a talented group. It's just a matter of can they put it all together, and is putting it all together enough in that conference? It's so top heavy that look, in that division, you got Miami, you got the Bills, and you got the Jets, right? So I don't know if three teams come out of that division. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if I'm honest, and this is because we haven't seen anything, so don't hold me to this in 8 weeks. But all things being equal right now, I would have them third out of those three in the division. But it's just because I don't know what we're gonna get, right? So this is gonna be an interesting game, and they're playing a very good team, so they're gonna be tested in this game. I'm picking the 49ers this game. I'm sure you are too, because we just don't know what the hell to expect from the Jets. But I'm gonna keep a close eye on it because I want to see how that offense looks with Aaron Rodgers in it, assuming he can make it past 4 plays, in the first quarter. I think they used like duct tape and phosphorus for his Achilles, so I don't know how it's gonna hold up. But
ayahuasca.
But I mean, I think we both agree on who we expect to win. But just any thoughts on that game? Anything you're looking for?
So McCaffrey got paid. And then he has a calf.
He has a calf. Well. They expect him to play.
Yeah. They want to use him sparingly. I do. Yeah, I'm picking Niners for this one as well. I think as long as Rodgers doesn't bring out the flag, he'll be able to play extra games as well, or extra plays as well. But also, there's always been a Super Bowl hangover for the loser as well. So I'm curious to see if the Niners drop off. Because it's been historically the team that loses the Super Bowl doesn't make the playoffs the following year. And so the Eagles were surprised that they. It was only 2 teams in our division that were going to make the playoffs or had a chance to make the playoffs, and then the Eagles. It was a decent team last year. They just the bottom fell out. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Niners. It's hard to go against them just because they've been so consistent the past few years, making the NFC title games a few times, making the Super Bowl as well. So it's hard to go against them. So, but it's still going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, for this one, it's an easy pick taking the Niners. It's just how much will they win by, essentially. Quick question: Brees Hall. He tore his ACL 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
So he's going to be much better this year because it's from what I understand, after the ACL is typically the second year. It's when you're essentially like 99% back or 90 or so percent back to what you were before the tear. It typically takes that first year is basically getting back acclimated, getting comfortable mentally and physically, and then the following year is when everything is more normal for you. So yeah, I think he'll take a huge step forward. I think it'll still be a fun game to watch, but yeah, I got the Niners in this one as well.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's get to the breaking news here. I had to look at the numbers here, so sorry for looking at my phone. But Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott becomes the highest paid player in NFL history with a 4-year, $240 million contract extension.
Big money. 60.
What?
I mean
that had to be the number, right? You were floating 60 around.
Yeah, that was like across the board because they're saying like it was going to be 60 if he would have hit free agency. It would have been like 65. I think they were saying. That's what I'm saying. But it's like, I mean, if you look at the numbers, like they've been showing the numbers between him and Mahomes.
They're neck and neck, bro.
Neck and neck. That's what they're saying. It's like he's right there. It shows that he has the talent. It's just being able to continue the talent and being able to increase it. So he can get you into places. It's just that he has to take it to the next level to get you through places.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting. And that's why he was calm. It's like, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm either get paid this year or next year. I'm gonna get paid, so it's okay. No, I get it. It's just crazy that we keep telling it's just easier for you to pay them earlier. Like the contract is coming up, just pay them earlier.
Just
it's coming up.
You gonna save money on that? Sorry,
exactly, and you end up spending extra money just waiting. Like you letting everybody else get paid, you don't want to set the market, and then you end up setting the market anyway. Hey, just pay the dude just to get it out the way.
You're gonna do it. You're not letting that man walk. Like,
why? Jerry don't want to restart.
No, obviously we heard the little back channel rumors about trying to get Shador, all this other stuff, and it's like, first of all, you're not gonna be that bad to be that high in the draft, so that's not happening. Yeah. And you don't have the trade capital to be drafting to move up, so that's not happening. So it's like, and then too, and this, I'm not gonna rant, but this is part of the reason why I'm like, bro, I can't do it this year. Y'all got it this year because you knew that he was going to count $60 million against the cap this year. Mm-hmm. If you would have just re-signed him earlier in the offseason, you would have freed up that cap space because he's gonna. The way they do contracts is that they're gonna have a smaller cap hit in the beginning, and it'll obviously increase as the years go on. Deal. Yeah. So you have the opportunity to decrease his cap hit this year, and then go out and get some guys that can help you and that can help him. But instead, you want to do this drawn out, drama filled. Why are we doing this? So you can be on first take every morning? I don't understand the priorities here. Everybody knows you're gonna re-sign him. You're not letting him walk. So why are you waiting until an hour before week 1 of the season to re-sign him when you could have done this in February or March and had the whole entire offseason to pick out? Anyway, Like I said, I'm not gonna rant.
They don't. And what's crazy is they haven't been spending money on their team, like the player. Like there's like a bottom. There's like a ground level. There's literally a ground level that you have to spend, and right now Dallas is under it. Like they're going to have to figure out something to get up to that ground level,
up to the minimum.
Up to the minimum to spend this season, which is insane.
I just don't get it, bro.
Yeah, mind you that they have Dak getting 60 a year, CD 32 or 31.5, something like that. A year. So you got all that money between them two, and you still under the baseline. Yeah, it's just insane. But for this game, I think I'd say Dallas. I feel like Cleveland. Chubb is gone.
Yeah, I don't think he's right. He's not active yet.
Yeah. So, and that's typically been a lot of the offense. And Deshaun hasn't been the same since he left Houston. So yeah, I got Dallas in this one, and plus Dak knows like all the everything that's going to be talked about in this after this game if he doesn't play well as well. So he's going to bring it. So I got Dallas in this one. What you got?
I think the biggest thing for this one is the battle of the lines, the offensive line.
Oh yeah.
Because you have, I don't know, and I haven't been plugged in, so I don't know. I don't know who they're starting at center. Who the Cowboys are starting at center. I don't know if they're starting BB at center or if they. I don't know what they're doing there. But
I think it will be BB.
Okay, so then you're going to have two rookies in your offensive line starting, right?
Yeah.
Tyler Guyton and then BB, right?
Yeah.
So you got two rookies starting in your offensive line against one of the best defensive ends in the league, if not the best, in Myles Garrett. And so that defensive line for Cleveland could be what makes or breaks this game. I think the draft picks that the Cowboys made and getting BB and Guyton were both very good picks, and I think they will like map out to be good picks in the future. I don't know how it works out for this game. Tyler Guyton might have his hands full for sure in this game.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that. I think that's the X factor in whether or not they win or lose this game. Also, I don't know who's running the ball for the Cowboys. Like I don't know. If they use best judgment, Rico should get the majority of the carries.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're going to do that because you got obviously you got Zeke coming back and then you signed Dalvin Cook, and so I don't know what they're going to do there. But I think Rico is the best back they got in that backfield, just based off of he's younger and he's just shown flashes. The issue with Rico has always been health more than anything else. And so maybe they just have these other guys there to sort of lighten the load so that, we don't have to Rico to be there and he can kind of be more fresh and therefore have a better impact when he's on the field. But my issue is just how much they're going to get on the field. If you got – I don't know how they have them as far as depth chart, but I'm assuming it's Zeke, Rico, and then Dalvin Cook. I'm assuming. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. On
ESPN. It should be Rico starting. But if you're gonna, they're not gonna bring Zeke back and not have him start. So and starting doesn't mean you have to have starter carries. I'm interested to see how they divvy that up. Yeah. Zeke should have more than 13 carries a game, in my opinion. He should not have that many carries. If you run the ball. Let me ask you this too: how do you
25
less now? Like what? Because like now you get that got his money now.
Yeah.
So for me, that means all right. Because I know we were talking about one of the things that McCarthy was talking about was we didn't do a good job of running the ball, blah blah blah. That's one of the reasons why they got rid of Kellen Moore, et cetera, et cetera. But even though they got rid of Kellen Moore, they still threw the ball 40 times a game. So it's like, all right, well, that what you're saying, what you're doing are matching up. Yeah. But I'm curious to I guess my question is twofold. Do you see them throwing the ball more now, or do you see it kind of being more consistent than what it was last year? And then B, if you were to split up the carries, just say percentage-wise, between Rico Dowdle Zeke Elliott, and Dalvin Cook. How would you, if you're the OC, distribute the number of carries that each of those players got, percentage wise?
So I'm going to try to push it to 25 touches. Rico should get 10 to 12 of them.
Okay.
Zeke should get 8 to 10. And Dalvin will get that's right around 3
to 6, somewhere in that ballpark.
3 to 6. And then of course Dak will have probably about 5 rushes, just broken plays or design runs. So it's no more than 5 for him. So that's it's right around 25, 27-ish or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's what I think the breakdown will be. So it's right around 27 rushes a game. And because when you're throwing the ball, it's going to be 34 to about 40-ish. CD will get about 12 to 15 touches a game. Brandon should get right around 8 touches. Tober should get about 8 as well. Ferguson and Schumacher probably get a combined 8. So, yeah, I think that's how they end up moving it around. And then you got, if it's a goal line thing, Hunter might get, the fullback might get a quick dive up the middle.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I think I'm interested to see how things go because I think Ferguson should have a breakout year this year.
Yeah. I think it's going to be nice.
I think they need to prioritize getting him the ball.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that helped out Dak was having Dalton Schultz as that security blanket, and you hope that you hope that Ferguson can kind of be that guy that can, we saw flashes of it last year.
Yeah.
So hopefully with more time in the offseason, more chemistry. He went to the tight end U thing that George Kittle does every year. Where I think he does it with it's him. I think Kelsey may be affiliated with it. I'm not sure, but I know George Kittle started it where every year they invite tight ends to kind of do a week-long camp and they kind of teach different stuff. So it's pretty cool. So I know that him and Hendershot, Hendershot's in Kansas City now, but I know him and Hendershot went to that last year. So hopefully he gets something from that as well, kind of learning from one of the best tight ends to ever do it, to be honest. Appreciate a trade, things like that. So we'll see. I think, I would expect a big year from him, and I think that could be another wrinkle for them to kind of take a next step. But obviously, we know the regular season is not the issue for them. So, I think this will be – did I make a pick? I'm picking the Cowboys. Yeah. But I just think it's going to be interesting to see how the offensive line holds up against Myles Garrett and those boys. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll kind of run through these last bits here with – our predictions in terms of getting our division predictions out of the way. And then we're also sort of going to springboard from that into our wild card picks and just who we have in each conference. And then we'll go to conference championship games and then Super Bowl. Okay. So I will let you start. We'll start with the AFC. Mm-hmm. So if you want to just give your division winners and who you have, the 7 teams you have in the playoffs.
Okay.
We'll kind of go off from there. All
right. Division winners, I have Baltimore, Buffalo, Houston, Kansas City. So essentially the same teams as last year.
Yeah, me too.
And then wild card will be Cincy, since Joe Burrow will be, if he stays healthy, I think they'll make it. Miami and the Jets will be the playoffs, will be the 17. So Ravens, Bills, Houston, KC, division winners, wild card, Cincy, Miami, and Jets. So the NFC East, AFC East will have 3 teams in it.
Okay. So I have the same divisional winners: Ravens in the North, Texans in the South, Chiefs in the West, and then the Bills in the East. Mm-hmm. For my wild card, I have the Colts, I have the Bengals, and I have the Dolphins.
Okay.
Part of me is using my fantasy football as my guy for the Colts. I need Anthony Richardson to do well.
Yeah.
But I just think that I talked about this a little bit earlier. I can't remember if you were on or not, but the Colts doing what they did last year, where Gardner Minshew is their starting quarterback. They came a game away from making the playoffs. They lost their last game of the season against the Texans to win and get in.
Yeah.
For them to make that run with Gardner Minshew as their quarterback, I feel like they got Zach Moss back. Zach Moss is healthy. Like they have the players. Yeah. And I think if he can stay healthy, they have a chance to make a run. I still think the Texans are the best team in that division. Although the Jaguars, we'll see. Like they have opportunity. They kind of nosedive at the end of last year, but they made some changes, and so we should see them kind of sort of bounce back, hopefully. But I feel like they'll take that next step. And then obviously, like you talked about with the Bengals, I think we agree. The biggest thing with them before is that Joe Burrow's never really had a healthy offseason. And so now he's had one. He went through the preseason. He got those reps. Obviously not with Jamar, but they don't need to. They know it's good. That's not really that big of an issue. One thing I did see that T. Higgins is out this week. He's not playing. So that should be interesting to see because obviously Jamar, he's active, but I don't know what you expect to get from him when he hasn't played at all. So one of the things that's been notorious for them is that they've had these slow starts, but it's because they had to kind of treat those first 4 weeks of the season as a preseason for them because Joe Burrow had to get his timing right and all that type of stuff. Now that Joe's actually had a preseason, a training camp, and all those things, you hope that they're able to kind of hit the ground running this year as opposed to how we kind of used to them starting out 0-3 and 1-4 and all that. If they kind of work through that this year, then they should be able to make the playoffs. So we'll see how it goes. And Miami, to me, this is a make or break year for them. I'm gonna be honest. Like we can kind of excuse the playoffs last year because they went to a freezer in Kansas City last year in that wild card game. So I can understand it. But this to me, they gotta make the playoffs this year. I mean, obviously they just paid Tua, so it's not gonna get rid of them. But something got to shake if they don't make the playoffs this year. So we'll see what happens. But I have the Colts, I have the Bengals, and I have Miami in wild card. AFC title game. I got the Ravens and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. What you got?
Kansas City and Texans.
Ooh, I'm mad at it.
Yeah.
The Ravens pick for me was more like they gotta get to the AFC title game. Like they at this point, like because I'm sick of the Lamar talk. It's just unwarranted in my opinion. As far as like, there's no question he's a top tier quarterback in this league. And there's so much. I don't understand why. Well, I may understand. We'll have to talk about it. I don't understand why the same noise that he gets, Josh Allen doesn't get. Maybe we know why. We'll have to talk about it. But it's
did you see the list or the vote from the players in the league?
He's the most overrated player to them. Which I mean, to me, it's a reason why they're saying that. But anyway, and it's not to say that he's not a good player, but it's like, damn, bro. Like, anyway. So for me, I just feel like it's a make or break for the Ravens. I just think they need to shut people up, and I think this is an opportunity for them to do that. So I have Ravens Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. So who do you have winning that and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl?
It'd be hard to go against the Chiefs, man. It's hard to bet against Mahomes.
Yeah, it is.
Like we saw this dude win a Super Bowl limping, so it's hard to bet against him. So I got Kansas City beating the Texans.
Yeah, I'm going with the Ravens, dog. I just feel like
they got to. If
they're gonna do it, I think this is the year to do it. And I know it's one game, but I think I saw enough out of them. And also, I didn't talk about this in the when we talked about Thursday Night Football game, but Isaiah Likely, and you didn't even use Mark Andrews like that, really, to be honest. Like they barely used him. So if they can find ways to incorporate both of those boys in the lineup at the same time to be productive, that's a whole other thing to have to worry about. You got Zay, you got Isaiah Likely, and you got Mark Andrews, like weapon. So he balled in that game. So we'll see. But that's my AFC. So we'll switch over to NFC. Since I had you start NFC, I'll start the NFC. So for my division winners, I had the Lions in the AFC North, the Bucks in the AFC South, the Niners in the AFC West, and the Eagles in the AFC East. So the only change I have is that the Eagles win division. Change from last year, I should say, is that the Eagles win division as opposed to Dallas. And then for wild cards, I have the Cowboys, I have the Bears, and I have the Seattle Seahawks. I had to late scratch the Packers pre-production because I just don't know how this injury I don't know how they kind of bounce back from that. Like we talked about in the beginning of the show, we had, best case scenario, they split those 6 games. Best case. And if you do worse than that, it's gonna be hard to catch up to Detroit and to the Bears. And so I have Dallas, I have Chicago, and I have Seattle and a wild card. So what do you have for your winners in the year wild card?
I have Detroit win the North, Philly win the East as well. Since nobody has won the division in back-to-back years, and
over 20 years.
Yeah, it's insane. And then I have Niners in the West. Like I said, it's going to be interesting watching them if they have a hangover, losing Super Bowl hangover. And then in the South, I have the Saints, primarily because I think somebody got to win that division. I think it's an extra year for Carr as well. So I think that will help him. And then Alvin Kamara he missed so much time last year. I think he's much healthier this year. He is a year older, but I think he'll be much healthier this year, so they'll be able to get them across into the playoffs. For the wild card, I have Cowboys, Seahawks, and I'm sick of the Packers. Okay. I think they'll have enough. Like I said, I think the back half of the season being heavy on the division is what's going to help them to get into it. I think they'll just stay afloat, even if it's just winning 2 of those games. That will be enough for them to be able to get into the playoffs. I think it's going to be such a huge gap between the Cowboys, between the Lions to the Cowboys, and the rest of the conference, to where it will allow for the Packers to get into it.
Okay. I'm going to say this real quick, and then we'll go over a conference title game. Mm-hmm. Commanders might be a low-key sexy pick, bro. Yeah. They might be a low-key sexy pick. Like, if things don't go well with the Cowboys, like, I could 100% see the Commanders finding a way into the playoffs somehow.
Yeah.
We'll see, but they could be one of those sleepers that might find a way in.
Yeah, bust up the party.
Yeah. So AFC title game for me is a rematch of last year. I have Detroit going up against the 49ers in that.
Yeah.
Who do you have? Same?
Same. I have Lions being a home team. I have them the number 1 team in the conference.
And then I have the Niners winning that game. Who do you have winning?
Lions. I think it's going to be in Detroit, so I have Lions winning that.
So you got Lions Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Who you got winning Super Bowl?
Chiefs. Got the Chiefs. Like I said, it's hard to bet against them. It
is. And I had them. I'm like, man, I can't pick the Chiefs again, bro. That'd be 4 in a row. Yeah. So I have the Ravens I have the Niners winning this the conference title game. So I have the Ravens and Niners Super Bowl, and I have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl.
What was that? 2012, I think it was rematch.
Yeah. The Beyonce Bowl, the Blackout Bowl.
Yeah.
So I have the Ravens winning that one. I can't. You're probably right, but I'm like, damn, they can't win. They gonna win 4 in a row.
Yeah. Well, this would be 3 in a row. They had lost to Tampa. Remember?
Oh, that's right.
This would be 3 in a row, but 4 out of 5 years or something like that. Yeah.
That's just nasty. That's nasty. Yeah. But again, we talked about it at the top of the show, like they've gotten better somehow. Outside of, they lost L'Jarius Sneed like we talked about, but for the most part, they got better from last year.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
That's tough.
Yep.
All right, so that's pretty much it for the show, man.
You're
I'm excited to be back, man. Excited to be back rocking with you again. This is gonna be fun. And we'll be here all season. So any last words, final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up? Because the game started about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Happy to be back, y'all. Y'all come hang out with us on these Sunday mornings before the games get kicked off. Also hit up the chat. Give us your ideas. Who's going to win the divisions? Who's going to make the playoffs? Conference finals as well. Let's make this a full discussion all around. Like and subscribe to us as well. Hey, let's help grow this show with us. Looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting year. NFL it's all parity all the time, or as far as the middle teams is a heavy parity. So looking forward to it. Did you freeze up on me? Or did I freeze up? The internet just don't like us today. You still here, Jay? He dropped off. And this is your Jay and Will pod. Yo, we're here. Make sure y'all like and subscribe with us. Enjoy what we have going. It's all about the party, being able to enjoy the NFL. All right. Let's do this. And this is Will. Peace out, y'all.